I never imagined that my entire existence could be distilled down to the price of $200 as some so paltry, yet so decisive in its consequence. That meager amount marked the chasm between life and death, hope and despair. I had always believed that love and determination could overcome any obstacle. But nothing could have prepared me for the cruel arithmetic that separated me from the two most precious souls I ever knew, my twin babies, Emma and Ethan. I remember the chill of that winter evening, as if it were etched into my very bones. I was a single mother, struggling to keep afloat in a world that seemed to conspire against me. The apartment I called home was a cramped refuge of peeling paint and frayed memories. Every cracked tile and every stained wall bore silent witness to the shattered dreams that once had flickered with hope. In that desolate space, my children were my only reason to believe in a better tomorrow. Their laughter, their coos, and even their tiny desperate cries filled the void of my lonely nights. Yet fate, it seems, is a merciless judge. When Emma and Ethan fell gravely ill, I was forced to confront a brutal truth. In our world, money is the difference between life and death. The doctors spoke in measured tones, their words heavy with finality. They explained that without immediate treatment, the fragile light that animated my babies would be extinguished forever. I had but $200, an amount that should have been enough to kindle hope, yet instead served as a grim deadline for their survival. I embarked on a desperate quest for help. I knocked on doors that I had never dared approach before, my hands trembling as I pleaded for mercy. I called out to old friends, their voices now distant echoes of a past filled with kinder promises. I even found myself whispering fervent prayers into the cold night, addressing a God I was no longer certain would listen. Each door I encountered slammed in my face. Each call ended in a curt refusal, and every prayer seemed to vanish into an indifferent silence. The world, it appeared, was deaf to the pleas of a mother fighting against impossible odds. That fateful night, the cold air seemed to seep into my very soul as I cradled my lifeless children in my arms. Their small bodies, so fragile yet so full of potential, were unnerving warm, an unsettling reminder that death had come quietly, without the fanfare of cruelty or malice. Their faces, serene in the midst of an overwhelming tragedy, bore an innocence untouched by the cruelty of this world. I remember their eyes, big, uncomprehending, and filled with a silent question of why they had been robbed of a future. In that heart-wrenching moment, the cruel calculus of life revealed itself. The sum of $200 had been enough to buy time, to buy hope, and yet it had been insufficient to purchase the miracle of survival. I screamed until my voice was but a ragged whisper, until the piercing sound of my agony was swallowed by the vast, unyielding silence of the night. With each tortured cry, I felt the life inside me begin to crumble, piece by fragile piece, as the realization sank in that nothing could be undone. That night, beneath a pallid moon and a sky that offered no solace, I buried not only my beloved children, but also the remnants of the woman I once was, a vibrant soul now shattered by grief and regret. In the days that followed, the silence of our empty home was a constant reminder of the price I had paid. Every shadow in the corner, every creak in the old wooden floors, echoed the memory of their laughter. I wandered through the halls of that cold apartment, each step weighted by memories of moments that could have been. First smiles, tentative giggles, whispered promises of a future that was cruelly snatched away. The very air I breathed was steeped in sorrow, a bitter miasma that suffocated any trace of hope. The community around me moved on, oblivious to the quiet tragedy that had unfolded behind those worn doors. Neighbors would pass by, their eyes averted, as if not to acknowledge the deep void in my heart. I became a ghost in my own life, a silent figure haunted by the echoes of a love that was irrevocably lost. At night, when sleep finally claimed me, I was tormented by dreams of what might have been, a future filled with the pitter-patter of tiny feet, the laughter of children, and a home brimming with warmth and life. Yet amidst the crushing despair, there was a bitter lesson to be learned. In that moment of utter devastation, I recognized the stark reality of our society, a world where the value of human life can be reduced to a mere monetary sum. It was a lesson carved into my heart with the sharpest of blades, a reminder that in the end, wealth and poverty are not mere economic states, but forces that shape destiny itself. My twins, with their fragile hearts and boundless potential, had fallen victim to a system that measured worth in dollars and cents. I began to wonder if fate had been cruelly unkind to me, or if perhaps I was meant to bear this unbearable burden so that I might one day fight against such injustice. In the solitude of my grief, a spark of defiance was kindled, a determination to challenge a world that valued money over life, profit over compassion. Though the pain was raw and the wound still gaping, I resolved that the memory of Emma and Ethan would not be lost in vain. Their untimely departure would become a clarion call, a demand for change in a society where the most vulnerable are left to suffer. In the quiet moments before dawn, as I sat alone with my memories and my sorrow, I vowed that I would rise from this devastation. The journey ahead would be long and fraught with heartache, but I would carry my twins' memory like a beacon, a reminder of the precious lives lost, and the promise of a future where no mother would ever be forced to choose between love and survival. And so, beneath a sky heavy with regret and determination, I began to reassemble the shattered fragments of my life, each piece a testament to a love that had been cruelly robbed, but never truly extinguished. That night, the cold and the darkness bore witness to a transformation, a painful rebirth forged in the crucible of loss. The woman who had once been defined solely by her sorrow slowly began to take shape, fueled by an inner strength that was as profound as it was reluctant. I could not undo what had been done, nor could I ever replace the void left by Emma and Ethan, but I could honor their memory by daring to dream again, by standing up against a world that had so callously traded human life for a sum of money. And in that defiant whisper of a promise, amidst the silence of a broken night, I felt the faint stirrings of hope, a hope that one day, perhaps, the price of loss would be paid not in tears and regret, but in the currency of compassion and justice. Grief changes a person. In the aftermath of unimaginable loss, I found that the raw, unbridled sorrow transformed me into someone unrecognizable. The woman who once wallowed in despair now emerged, hardened by pain and tempered by a fierce determination. I refused to let the cruelty of fate keep me broken. Instead, I vowed to forge a new path, one that would defy the odds and reclaim a sense of purpose from the ashes of my shattered life. Every day became a relentless struggle for survival. I took on any job that came my way, scrubbing floors in dimly lit kitchens, dusting off neglected homes, and serving meals at crowded diners. Each task, no matter how menial, was a step away from the hopelessness that had once consumed me. The days blurred into nights as I moved from one job to the next, driven by the single-minded belief that I would never again allow money to dictate the course of my life. My body ached, my spirit was battered, yet every drop of sweat testified to my resolve. I remember the long hours spent cleaning houses in affluent neighborhoods where luxury was taken for granted. In those grand homes, I was but a shadow, a silent presence scrubbing away the remnants of a life that was not my own. On many nights, when fatigue overwhelmed me, I slept on cold, hard floors in spare rooms that became temporary sanctuaries. Wrapped in a threadbare blanket, I clutched my meager savings, as if they were the only shield against the relentless tide of despair. Even in the darkest moments, I held tightly to one burning promise. Never again would I allow myself to be so helpless that I would lose what mattered most. During the quiet hours of the night, I found solace in night classes. I enrolled in courses that taught the fundamentals of business and the art of self-reinvention. The lectures became a lifeline, a beacon of possibility amidst my misfortune. Each lesson filled my mind with dreams of building something enduring, a legacy that would defy the cruelty that had once defined my existence. Countless evenings were spent poring over textbooks and scribbling notes by the dim glow of a single lamp. In that quiet solitude, I began to understand that every small step was a stride toward reclaiming my identity. The journey was far from smooth. There were days when failure seemed to lurk around every corner, a missed opportunity, a rejection letter, a closed door. Yet, I refused to let these setbacks become insurmountable obstacles. I learned to view each setback as a stepping stone on the arduous climb from nothing to something substantial. Every rejection fueled my determination. Every barrier became a challenge to overcome. I transformed every no into motivation, every hardship into a lesson in perseverance. Slowly, the fruits of my labor began to show. What started as a desperate attempt to survive evolved into a relentless pursuit of prosperity. With every job, every lesson, and every small victory, I laid the foundation for a new identity, a version of myself that was strong, independent, and unyielding. My humble beginnings taught me that the foundation of success is often built upon the ruins of one's past, and that no amount of wealth can ever replace the hard-won lessons learned through hardship. I vividly recall the day when the transformation became undeniable. I had taken a modest cleaning service, a small venture born from desperation, and nurtured it into a thriving enterprise. Tirelessly, I worked to expand the business, investing every penny into its growth. I learned the intricacies of management, the importance of trust, and the power of perseverance. Gradually, that small service blossomed into a business with dreams larger than life itself, a business that would one day form the cornerstone of a luxury hotel chain. The pride I felt was not merely for the financial success, but for the reclamation of my own dignity and identity. Yet, even as success began to illuminate my path, the ghosts of my past never truly faded away. The memory of Emma and Ethan lingered like a soft echo in the quiet moments of triumph. Their absence was a constant, a poignant reminder of the price I had once paid. In the stillness of early mornings and the hush of late nights, their voices whispered of what might have been. Their memory was both a burden and a beacon, urging me onward. It compelled me to press forward, ensuring that no other soul would be left vulnerable in a world where money dictated destiny. In my climb from nothing, I discovered unexpected allies. Beneath the surface of my tired exterior, marked by calloused hands and a scarred heart, there burned an unyielding spirit. Friends, mentors, and even strangers recognized that inner flame and offered support in small, yet significant ways. Their belief in my potential provided a counterbalance to the relentless forces of despair that once threatened to engulf me. Through these connections, I learned that even in a society ruled by the pursuit of wealth, compassion, and genuine care are invaluable currencies. As my business continued to grow, so too did my understanding of the intricate relationship between wealth, power, and human worth. I came to realize that money was not merely a tool for survival, but a force that could shape destinies, both noble and cruel. The experience of losing my children had revealed a harsh truth, that the value of life could be reduced to dollars and cents, yet the worth of a human soul remains immeasurable. I vowed then, with every fiber of my being, that I would never let the pursuit of profit eclipse the importance of empathy and kindness. Every decision I made, every risk I took, was tempered by the memory of that dark night. A night when a mother's love was pitted against the unyielding demands of a heartless world. Every boardroom meeting, every late-night phone call, and every decision made in the pursuit of a better future carried with it the lessons of my past. I was no longer defined by the price of my loss, but by the magnitude of my climb. A climb that transformed me from a broken woman into a formidable force determined to change her destiny. The road ahead remained challenging, yet with each painstaking step, I forged a future that honored my suffering and celebrated my resilience. Every step forward reaffirmed my resilience, a quiet victory over despair, and the promise of a brighter, self-made future. That evening, after a day that had stretched endlessly with meetings and negotiations, I found myself driving along the quiet outskirts of the city. The fluorescent glare of office buildings and busy streets had faded behind me, replaced by a twilight that draped the world in muted blues and grays. I was exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally, carrying the weight of a past that refused to be forgotten. Every mile I put between myself and the relentless demands of my burgeoning empire felt like a fragile attempt at escape. Yet, despite my resolve to leave behind the pressures of success, something drew my gaze to the side of the road, a building bathed in the soft glow of street lamps that seemed out of place in my hurried life. The structure was an orphanage, modest and unassuming, its facade marked by peeling paint and the quiet dignity of years past. I had never noticed it before, nor had I ever thought to venture inside. But on that particular night, a force I could neither define nor resist pulled me toward it. As I parked my car, A heavy mixture of trepidation and curiosity churned within me. I hesitated at first, unsure if I should disrupt my carefully constructed routine. Yet something in the recesses of my heart, a memory perhaps, whispered that I needed to see what lay beyond those unremarkable walls. Inside, the orphanage revealed a world both familiar and foreign. The corridors were alive with the sound of laughter, the rustle of little feet, and the soft murmur of children at play. It was a symphony of life that struck a stark contrast to the silent void of my apartment. For a brief moment, I allowed myself to be swept away by the gentle cadence of joy that filled the air. But then, amid the laughter and light, a weight began to press against my chest, a sense of impending familiarity that I couldn't ignore. I wandered through the narrow hallways, my steps hesitant, as if the floor itself knew the secrets I carried. In one quiet corner of a common room I paused. There, tucked away from the boisterous cheer of the other children, sat two small figures, a boy and a girl side by side. They were huddled together on a worn rug, their small bodies cloaked in silence and a palpable sense of longing. In that instant, my heart caught in my throat. Their eyes, large and filled with quiet curiosity, mirrored a familiar depth. Their tiny hands, so delicately formed, echoed memories I had long tried to bury. Time seemed to slow. The bustling noise of the orphanage receded, leaving only the thunder of my own heartbeat in the stillness. In those children's faces, I saw reflections of Emma and Ethan, their gentle smiles, the way their eyes sparkled with an unspoken wonder. I blinked, certain that my exhausted mind was playing cruel tricks on me, but there was no mistaking the resemblance. It was as if fate had, in an unyielding twist of irony, brought me face to face with ghosts from a past I had desperately tried to leave behind. Before I could gather my thoughts, an old woman appeared at my side. She moved with a grace that belied the weight of her years, her eyes holding both kindness and a sorrow that resonated deeply within me. "They've been here since they were babies," she said in a soft, measured tone, as though reciting a fact as ordinary as the changing of the seasons. "No one has ever wanted to adopt them together." Her words sliced through the haze of my disbelief. In that moment, I felt an intense, almost overwhelming connection, an intuition that these children were not merely strangers, but something far more significant. I wanted to walk away, to convince myself that the resemblance was nothing more than a trick of fate, a cruel coincidence born out of my grief. Yet deep inside, I already knew the truth. These two small souls were not simply orphans. They were perhaps my second chance at reclaiming a love I had thought forever lost. I sank into a nearby chair, my mind awash with conflicting emotions. The sterile walls of the orphanage, though unadorned and faded, began to pulse with memories of a life that had once been so vivid. I recalled the tender moments of holding my own babies close, the warmth of their laughter, and the bittersweet taste of dreams that had been shattered by an indifferent world. The caretaker's words reverberated in my ears as I studied the children before me. The girl's eyes were luminous, filled with a depth that belied her tender age, while the boy's curious gaze seemed to search for a connection that transcended mere circumstance. The familiar pain of loss mingled with the nascent hope. Every fiber of my being cried out against the injustice that had taken Emma and Ethan from me. The very thought that I could be presented with another chance, a chance to nurture, to love, and to perhaps mend a broken piece of my soul, was both exhilarating and terrifying. I wrestled with the notion that the universe, in its inexplicable cruelty, might be offering me a sliver of redemption. Could these children truly be my long-awaited answer to a lifetime of grief? Or was it simply my heart's desperate desire to find solace in the unlikeliest of places? I rose slowly from the chair, feeling as though the weight of the past and the present were coalescing within me. With a hesitant step, I approached the children. They looked up as if expecting me, their expressions a blend of cautious curiosity and quiet resignation. I knelt beside them, my hand trembling as I reached out to gently touch the small fingers that reminded me so achingly of a love lost. In that touch, there was a momentary collision of worlds, the innocence of new beginnings meeting the scars of old wounds. For a long, silent minute, the only sound in the room was the soft rustling of fabric and the distant hum of life beyond the orphanage walls. I searched their eyes for a sign, a hint that they too, might sense that this meeting was more than mere chance. And in that quiet, suspended moment, I realized that despite the cruelty of fate, the universe might still offer unexpected miracles. They were not just remnants of a lost past. They were beacons for a future that I could still shape, however uncertain that future might be. The old caretaker watched us with a knowing look, her eyes reflecting the kind of empathy that comes only from years of witnessing life's most poignant moments. Sometimes, she said softly, the heart finds what it needs in the most unexpected places. Her words, simple and unadorned, resonated deeply with the tumult inside me. I knew then that my life's course was about to change in ways I had never imagined. That night, as I left the orphanage, the cool air of the evening felt charged with possibility. I drove home with a heart that was both heavy with past sorrows and buoyant with the fragile hope of redemption. The images of those two children, so small, yet so significant, etched themselves into my mind. Their faces would forever remind me that even amidst the darkest despair, life had a way of offering second chances. The pain of my past was interwoven with the promise of new beginnings, a promise that whispered of the possibility of love reborn from the ashes of loss. In the quiet solitude of my drive, I reflected on the profound irony of it all. The loss of Emma and Ethan had left an indelible void, a wound that no amount of success or wealth could ever heal. And yet, in the unlikeliest of places, fate had presented me with an opportunity to fill that void. The realization was as bittersweet as it was empowering. I understood that embracing this second chance would not erase the past. It would simply add another layer to the tapestry of my existence. A tapestry woven with threads of sorrow, hope, resilience, and a renewed capacity for love. As I finally reached my destination, the echoes of that transformative evening lingered in my mind. The familiar pain, tempered by the promise of a new beginning, had etched itself into my soul. I knew that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, and that the ghosts of the past would not easily release their hold on me. But in that moment, I also knew that I had been given a chance to rewrite a part of my story that had long been defined by loss. The delicate balance between the echoes of what once was and the faint, yet persistent, hum of what might be filled me with a resolve that was both unyielding and fragile. It was in that balance, the interplay of sorrow and hope, that I found the courage to take the next step. The children at the orphanage were more than a reminder of a familiar pain. They were a symbol of the resilience of the human spirit, a testament to the idea that even when life seems irrevocably broken, it can still offer a path toward healing and renewal. And so, with a heart both burdened and uplifted, I embraced the uncertainty of what was to come, aware that this moment marked the beginning of a new chapter, a chapter that would test the limits of my strength, compassion, and capacity to love. Years passed, and with each unfolding day, the contours of my life began to transform in ways I had never dared to imagine. Lily and Leo blossomed before my eyes, strong, joyful, and filled with an unyielding spirit that seemed to heal even the deepest wounds of the past. Their laughter, once a distant echo of what I had lost, now resounded through our home like the music of hope. In their every smile, every burst of mischief, I discovered a tender reassurance that the relentless agony of loss was slowly giving way to something altogether different, a profound, quiet peace. I often found myself sitting by the window during quiet evenings, watching the golden hues of sunset merge with the gentle murmur of the evening breeze. In those moments of solitude, the ghosts of Emma and Ethan would visit me, not as specters of pain, but as soft, lingering memories woven into the fabric of my being. I could almost see their tiny faces, feel the warmth of their presence, and hear the whispers of what might have been. But unlike the searing pain of those early days, this reflection brought with it a tender acceptance. The heart, I realized, is not a vault that locks away memories forever. It is a vessel that can hold sorrow and joy side by side. Building a life anew had not been a decision made lightly. It was a journey marked by countless trials, each one chiseling away at the remnants of the woman I once was. Every setback I had encountered on my climb from nothing was now a stepping stone toward a future that defied the harsh lessons of the past. The business empire I had painstakingly built, a beacon of resilience and tenacity, served as a constant reminder that while money could never buy back what was lost, it could create opportunities for healing and reinvention. In boardroom meetings and late-night strategy sessions, I had learned that success was not measured solely by the balance in one's bank account, but by the courage to rebuild, to forge new bonds, and to cherish the life that unfolds despite all odds. Yet, even as I reveled in the triumphs of my new reality, there were quiet moments when the past crept in unbidden. In the soft lull of a winter evening, as the firelight danced upon the walls of our cozy living room, I would sometimes catch a glimpse of the little shadows that reminded me of Emma and Ethan. Their absence was a constant, bittersweet reminder that the price I had once paid in tears and despair had shaped every facet of my existence. But rather than letting the memory of loss consume me, I chose to see it as the crucible in which my newfound strength had been forged. The pain had taught me empathy, instilled in me an unwavering commitment to protect those who were vulnerable, and imbued my every decision with a depth that only profound sorrow could inspire. As the years wove themselves into a tapestry of vibrant moments and gentle lessons, I began to see the beauty in the unexpected twists of fate. My children, Lily with her inquisitive eyes and Leo with his infectious laugh, had grown into young souls who radiated love and compassion. They carried within them the promise of a future unmarred by the inequities of a world that once seemed so cruel. In their friendship and their shared adventures, I witnessed a reflection of the purest kind of resilience. Their triumphs were not just milestones in their own lives. They were my victories, small but immeasurably significant, that testified to the unyielding power of hope and the transformative nature of a mother's love. In the quiet corners of our home, memories mingled with the present in a delicate dance. I would often find myself lost in thought, recalling the long nights of desperate struggle when I had fought to reclaim a semblance of dignity amidst crushing despair. The hardships of those days had taught me that life's most precious gifts are often born from the darkest hours. Every challenge I had overcome was a chapter in the story of rebirth, a story that was rewritten with each new smile, every shared moment of laughter, and every tender embrace. In letting go of the bitterness of the past, I discovered that life could offer a form of redemption that was as unexpected as it was miraculous. The transformation was not just visible in the growth of my children or in the success of my business. It was etched into every fiber of my being. I learned to cherish the quiet moments, the early morning sunlight filtering through the lace curtains, the soft rustling of pages in a well-worn book, the gentle hum of a lullaby sung at bedtime. These were the moments that stitched together the fabric of our everyday lives, subtle yet powerful reminders that love persists even in the aftermath of unbearable loss. In embracing the present with all its imperfections, I found that the future was not defined solely by what was lost, but by the promise of what could still be nurtured and grown. As I reflected on the journey that had brought me to this point, I understood that the narrative of my life was far more complex than a simple tale of triumph over tragedy. It was a mosaic of emotions, each shard a memory, a lesson, a glimpse of what it meant to be human. In the interplay of shadow and light, grief and joy, I discovered a truth that transcended the confines of time and circumstance. That every life, no matter how marred by loss, holds the potential for rebirth. The love I had once felt for Emma and Ethan, though eternally mourned, had evolved into a broader, more inclusive capacity to nurture and to care. It was a love that no longer clung solely to the past, but embraced the promise of new beginnings. I began to see my role not only as a guardian of memories, but as a creator of new stories, a storyteller in my own right, writing a narrative that celebrated the resilience of the human spirit. With every new day, I strived to honor the legacy of those I had lost by investing all that I had into the future. Whether it was through a kind word to a stranger, a quiet moment of empathy shared with a friend, or the everyday acts of love and care that defined my relationship with Lily and Leo, I made a conscious choice to infuse every action with purpose. The sorrow of my past was indelibly interwoven with the hope of my present, forming the foundation of a life that, though rewritten by tragedy, now flourished in unexpected ways. In the twilight of my reflections, as I sat with my thoughts and the soft murmur of the night as my only company, I realized that my life had come full circle. I had once been defined by the unbearable cost of loss, measured in dollars and despair. Yet, through perseverance and the boundless capacity of the human heart, I had transformed that loss into a legacy of love, resilience, and renewal. I had not reclaimed what was taken from me, but in its place, I had nurtured something equally precious, a second chance at motherhood, a new beginning that shone with the promise of healing and hope. And so, as I closed my eyes each night, I did so not with a heart burdened solely by regret, but with one that was open to the endless possibilities of tomorrow, a life reimagined, a future redefined, and a love that would forever echo in the laughter of my children and the quiet serenity of my soul.